G'day team, Matty231 with another exciting video today, hopefully. We've hit 1,000 subscribers, so firstly, thanks to everyone who's subscribed. It's been a long journey to get to this extremely successful level of subscribers. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I've been on YouTube since 2006, so I've been on for years, and I've only after nearly 20 years hit 1,000 subscribers, but hey, I'll take it. Let's keep going. My goal this year was to hit 2,000 subscribers, so we're sort of halfway there, I guess. So if you're watching, you like my videos, obviously, then please subscribe, just so I can. I know that you guys enjoy the content, but anyway, let's move along. Appreciate everyone who subscribed and anyone who subscribes to get me up to that 2K mark, and also please like the video if you find it interesting. Now today we've got a different surprise, a new vehicle. Now you guys know I am a Mercedes fan to the core, and I always will be and always still am, obviously, but we've got something different. The reason we have something different today is because I've had this car before, not the same car but the same make and model and engine and stuff, so the opportunity for me to buy this came up just a few weeks ago from a friend I know. His brother was selling it, so it's not what I was looking to buy. I was looking to buy an E63, but I can't really afford that price right now. So in the interim, as you do when you're a car nut, you buy something that's different but still going to give you the same feeling of getting a new car. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it and unveil it. Do you know what it is? Maybe check some of my older videos from 10 years ago and you might be able to guess. And no, it's not a Subaru. And the new car team is a 2009 BMW 335i. That's right team, it's a 335i. Now, to be quite frankly honest, I'm a BMW fan, there's no doubt about it. I used to love them when I was a kid, or when I was growing up. But, you know, I've owned a 335i before, and now moving forward, after years of having Mercedes-Benz, I definitely think they are a superior car brand, at least in terms of just sort of quality and comfort. Now this car, as soon as I drove it the first time again, it reminded me how good BMW is, and it's on my channel. I've only got one video I ever did of it, but you can check it out. It was a pre-LCI BMW E90. So if you don't know about these cars and you're obviously a Mercedes fanatic like I am, the E90 was run from 2005 to 2011/12, and this was basically the highest non-M car engine spec you could get. So it was a 3 litre twin turbo configuration. They also did a 3 litre single turbo configuration, which was a newer version. So this is the original N54 engine, with 306 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. And the N55 was the one that came about a year after this, because this is a facelift. As you can see, it's got the newer headlights and the newer bumper and the newer CIC iDrive system. But the actual engine itself is still the original one that came with the 335 when they were introduced in 2006, late 2006. So this car here is, yeah, it's what I've purchased. And we're just gonna basically give it a good clean up, give it a good service. It's already running really well. It's already immaculately presented. The guy I bought it off, a young guy, like really looked after it. You can just like look at, like, if you've seen the E90, the 1998 E55 project videos, that car was a flippin' pigsty mess, just still fixing it right to this day. Whereas this car is like being looked after extremely well, right? And it shows on the inside. The seats are still mint. It's done 24,000 Ks, so it's done a few Ks. But it's just overall a very tidy car. Now, I'll get into a little bit of the spec. We'll go through the build sheet soon, but one thing that's unfortunate with this car is it is relatively basic spec. So my 335i from Japan came with basically sort of like everything. Japanese cars are really well spec'd in general for German automobiles. So, you know, we've got seat heaters in here, thank goodness. You know, we've got iDrive, we've got cruise control, we've got the basics like that. But for example, the 2008 335i I had also had a whole lot of extra little features that you don't get in this car, even though this is New Zealand new domestic market car. So this car's only got bass audio system. There's no tweeters in the A-pillars. We've got underfloor seat speakers, and that's about it. This car doesn't have adaptive headlights, which when I say adaptive, it means they corner with the steering wheel. So the Japanese cars have that, this doesn't have that. These are all minor details, team. At the end of the day, it still drives like a 335i should. But, you know, it's just nice little tech features. It doesn't have under-door lighting. It's got footwell lighting. It also doesn't have the under-door lighting that was the part of the lights package. If you guys know the E90s and BMWs, obviously the lights package, this car does not have that. And yeah, it's just a little under-spec'd. But the core thing is it is an LCI model, which I haven't had before. It's primo condition. I got it for a pretty good price, I think. And yeah, what we're going to do to it, team, is just do the basics, keep her up to speed. So we'll go through that soon. But yeah, what we're going to do in the meantime is just go for a little drive and have a chat about how this car drives, because it really does drive. When I drove it for the first time, it really reminded me how good these cars handle compared to like the ES55 and stuff, which is obviously a bigger family car. So let's get ready and go for a cruise. So team, we're going for a cruise in the E90 and the 335. And yeah, again, as I said before, initial thoughts, like it's a really nice handling car for a sedan. You know, like when you think about it though, I guess I've been driving primarily E and S classes, you know, and they're really not built to be sort of the sharpest handling cars. So, you know, it's been good fun. It's been good fun getting back into a smaller car again and just driving it a bit. Now, for a start, like, again, I'm not really a BMW guy anymore. I don't really look to, you know, buy or own one necessarily. If I had lots of money, I'd probably buy like an M5 or something cool like that, but I wouldn't really go out of my way to buy one. But yeah, initial thoughts, it is nice to be back in one. I don't know if I'd say I'm like stoked, like, oh, I remember this and I love it, and I forgot, you know, I sort of forgot what I was missing as such. It's just a nice car, you know. It's a nice all-round car. One thing I do like about the 335 is the low-down torque. Like, it's just got like an effortless feel to it, where you touch the accelerator and it just pulls away effortlessly. Now, this car's only got 400 Newton meters of torque off the line stock, but my E55 and even the S600, you know, they're all cars with 700-800 Newton meters of torque stock. But this car feels just that bit peppier from a stop, basically from stop. So, you know, and obviously it's a lighter car. Like, I imagine the E90 is probably a 1700 kilo car, whereas the E and the S class is basically 1900, 2200 kilos. So they're quite big cars, but nevertheless, it's nice. The overall build quality as well, like, I usually give BMWs a lot of crap for being like real poorly built, but I feel like the E90s, especially this one's, been pretty well looked after. The interior's mint, you know, it drives really nice, it's tight, there's no knocking, there's no clunking. The only complaint is just the run flat tyres are a little bit noisy up the front. But yeah, like, it's just a really solidly built car. But they still have, especially the N54 and just 3 Series in general, they still have a lot of things that can go wrong and cause issues. But,
you know, I think it really only plagues the engine itself more than the rest of the car. If you keep a car like this garaged and well maintained and driven regularly, you know, they're gonna last for ages. But people buy them and they you know, they don't garage them, they don't look after them, they don't service them on time. Like I say, with any European car, you need to drive it, you need to look after it properly. You can't cheap out on it. You can't go to Jiffy Lube, you can't go to, you know, whatever your budget version of the service shop is. You need to look after it properly and service it every year, and they'll be fine. But yeah, like from day one of owning cars when I was 16, owning my first Subaru Legacy, like always, you know, looking after the car came as the first primary focus for me. But and it was no different with my first 335i. However, the first 335i I had, touch wood, this one doesn't give us any grief. The first one I had quite a few problems, including, you know, situations where I was left stranded nearly twice. So, you know, within a few months of owning my first one in 2008, 335, it blew a water pump. Basically, the water pump crapped out, so I overheated when I was about 10 minutes from home. So back then, team, I had no understanding of, well, compared to now anyway, I had no understanding of auto mechanics or anything mechanical at all, really. You know, the furthest I would get back then was taking the wheel off, so I was pretty clueless. You know, so straight away had to go to the dealership, or the independent mechanic, and they were 45 minutes away. So you can see how quickly a car like this can be very expensive to drive and run. They're not a car that you can just, you know, affordably own. They add up very quick. They add up very quick. So, like in my situation now, and it goes the same with my other cars, and you guys are probably in the same position maybe, or you're looking to get to that point where you can look after your own cars. Because, you know, if I couldn't look after my own cars, I would not buy this car at all. I wouldn't even touch it, because I guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say guarantee you, but I'm pretty sure, you know, this car will probably have an engine light in the next few weeks or months, and, you know, and eventually you'll have to go to a repair shop, get it quoted. They're going to muck around, you're paying their time, you're paying full rate on parts. It just doesn't work. So cars of this age now, you know, 14, 15 years old and more, you really need to look after them yourself, unless you've got deep pockets, and also the time and hassle to find someone you trust to look after it, take it there, take it back, get it towed in, you know. It's just not worth it. So yeah, basically, fundamentally, this car's cool, and I like it. And we're going to do a little bit of a tidy up to it. So we're going to look at a few things first. I want to do the headlights. The headlights are a little bit faded and musty. I also want to do the exhaust tailpipes. And other than that, like, the guy that I bought this off really looked after it, and kept it mint, kept it garaged. He did a really good job, so props to him for that. That's all it really needs cosmetically. You know, there's a few bits of the trim in the car here I'll show you soon that need to be replaced, which I've already got on order. So a few bits and pieces here, but that's literally all it is. Simple. So let's just enjoy the rest of the drive, and we'll come back and we'll get dug into some of the more technical things we're going to look at.
Right, team, one of the first things we want to address on the 335 is the battery. So the battery is toast in this. It just like barely works, right? So radio's no good here. But basically you turn stuff on and within seconds it usually brings up a battery warning light. So that to me tells us that the battery's buggered or it's just really low. But I think it's buggered because reason being is the previous owner had basically plugged the car in, recharged it. He's driven it here to drop it off. I've driven it around the block, and then within minutes of turning it off, I get a battery light coming on. So, and that's been ever since I started looking at it anyway, so it's nothing new. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the battery out. First what we're going to do is we're going to do a health check on it, and then we're going to see how good or bad it is, and then we're going to pull it out if it's no good. But for some reason, everything's actually sort of working at the moment. There's no battery error, so that's interesting. There's wait a minute. Oh, how do you work it? I can't remember. Anyway, there's that gong noise. Oh, the air conditioning comes on with that button. That's cool. Oh, you can change your circulation, but then realise. Okay, anyway, we'll turn it back off, team. We're going to do a health check on the batteries to see what state of health it's in. So I've got a, just be careful don't scratch the roof with the E55. So the battery in the back of these cars is in here. Now, this rotary knob is broken, so I've already ordered a new one of those. Little rotary knob, it's a common fault on these cars. Our little tray here, and here's our battery. So if we get the torch on it, team, and we can see what the situation of health is on the battery. The green dot on it, so the battery shouldn't be too bad actually. So what we're going to do, I might even pull the battery fully out just to see what's going on, because I would like to see what the actual make and model of the battery is. So let's just move it around a bit and see what's happening with it. But yeah, first I will attempt to test it in the car. The problem is I don't know what the CCA rating is. I think it's about 780 on these cars. Just running the lights, team, for a few seconds. Lovely gong going off every 2 minutes. Yep. So we just run the lights briefly, turn it off and stop it gonging at us. Pull the key out. So we'll do our test. In vehicle battery test. Okay, we've done that. Regular flooded, CCA 780. Let's test that. So here it's just saying we need a good recharge. So I find that interesting. So I'm going to plug the CTEC in, and we're going to get it on charge and see what the CTEC says. So let's pull that up now. Right, so the battery, team, is still halfway, roughly. It's not fully dead, which is weird because a battery that's buggered is usually pretty darn empty. So I find it strange that the battery's not fully discharged. And I even ran the power, we ran the xenons for 10 seconds. I've done a few bits and pieces, and yeah, so that's a bit bizarre. I don't understand that. Therefore, it makes me think, which might be a good or a bad thing, we have something else causing the power to drain in the car. So what we're going to do is we're just going to leave it overnight to recharge fully. And then what we're going to do is just drive the car normally and see how it runs. Like it could just need a good recharge. So we're going to possibly be lucky that we don't have to replace the battery. But then the trade-off is obviously what's the actual other issue. So that's interesting in its own right. So what we're going to do now is, just leave that as it is. And we're going to get stuck into doing some just quick detailing things on the E90. And primarily, firstly, we're going to start with the exhaust tips. We're going to tidy those up as best we can. We'll probably end up using, which I find works well, team, is the rotary tool here. So we've got some polishing wheels. We'll put the rotary tool on there. You can do it by hand with some microfiber cloths. That's what I normally use. But yeah, it speeds it up. Like we've polished all the tips on the Mercs using by just generally by hand before I got all the fancy tools. But in the meantime, while we've got access to it, we're going to use the tools. So let's get into that. And then also we're going to just spend a little bit of time restoring these front headlights. So you might have seen in the clips before, they're a little tired. You know, they're not definitely not clear like they were out of the factory. They're quite yellowed up the top here on the brow, and just the lens is a bit messy. So the way we're going to attack this piece is we're going to mask everything off first, and I'm probably going to I think we'll probably first start by actually polishing them without actually sanding anything. We'll see how they come up just with a nice polish, with a heavy compound, and then if they don't look too good or too much better, then we'll go into a wet sand. And yeah, we'll prep the headlight. We'll give it a wet sand. We'll do it another light sand, and then we will give it a full polish, and that'll bring it up real mint. So yeah, we'll do it that way instead. But yeah, let's start with the exhaust tips and get into it. Right, team, to get onto the headlights, we're going to give these a tidy up. So as I say, first we're just going to start with polishing them and just see if that makes any difference. But first what we'll do is we'll give them a good clean with a nice clean microfiber, and then we'll mask these off, and then we'll get the polisher out and try and polish them. If we can't get much of the yellowing out and the blurriness out, then we'll get our sandpaper, which I think it's a 500 or 600 grit paper, and we'll wet sand this with water. So let's just get into it, and I'll just update us along the way as we go. Team, I've got to remind you how valuable a dual action polisher is. Like straight away, within like 2 minutes, that's our improvement, and that's our current. Look at the difference. Within 2 minutes, look at how clear that. Still a bit yellowy, but look at that. So we've got Menzerner heavy compound here going on it, right? A bit of citrus blend to clean it off. Like a quick detailer prepare sort of product, and what we're going to do now is I'm just going to jump straight in now, because my polish is quite a big pad. I think it's a 6-inch pad. I'm going to use my little fella here and put some heavy compound on him, and we're just going to get into those hard to reach spaces. So my polisher really only just covered like this piece here. I couldn't get into this sort of triangle here. I also couldn't get into this triangle here. So I'm just going to use this to then polish. We're just going to go around the edges basically. Do those edges there, do those edges there, do along the base here. And also we're going to try and get into this piece as well. Just give it a little clean. So let's do that now. Right, team, that's looking a lot better. So I've done a teeny bit of sanding around this edge here, and the only reason is because I got too cocky and just sort of burnt a bit of the lens here with my pad on my rotary tool. Again, that's why, you know, a dual action is a lot better and safer. A rotary tool, you know, you've got to be very careful with the speed and the pressure you apply, because in this case I got a few marks here, so I sanded them back and got them out. So we're going to just seal the headlight, but straight away if we compare it to the left hand side, it's a lot better. Yeah, it's a lot better. That left headlight pops out a lot more now, doesn't it? So that is good, but we'll do a full unveil later. So let's just put some prep. Here it is, team, ultra high definition ceramic coat. Now
I don't believe this is the best protection you can put on like a headlight lens. There are other sealers that we can use. I don't have any other sealers at the moment with me, so I'm going to research and try and find some. But for now, we'll work with what we've got. So basically, we've got the applicator pad. So we'll shake that up, and then basically we're just tipping it on here and covering the lens in the ceramic coat, and then we're leaving it for, I think it's a couple of minutes from memory. What is our instruction guide will tell us, but I believe it's about a minute, and then we just sort of buff it off. So I put it on this thing here, I let it sort of run into the little channels. There we go, run into the channels, cool. And then we can put it on and basically just rub it in. And I believe you want to rub it in to the point where there's no sort of bubbles left as such, because it sort of foams up. You really don't need a lot, team. Like, I've possibly used just even a little bit more than I need to on this light here. So really only a couple of, probably 4 or 5 drips is sufficient. You sort of feel it starts to get a bit sticky. So as you work your way around, it gets sort of like, it feels like a bit like glue. So I'll stop there. I'll put the lid back on. Just get the last bits off. Right, team, 1 hour later, and both headlights are done. So let's turn on the bi-xenons and see how they look. Nice. They look good. Nice and clear. Perfect. So now we'll move on to the exhausts, team. But yeah, just a few tips. So if you are doing the headlights again, just mask the edges off, and where you can, get a dual action polisher like I had, good quality one, and basically you're using different pads of different compound types, so heavy compound and then polishing compounds, just to remove all the gunk. Now this is definitely not a long-term solution that's gonna, last years and look good. This is gonna be something that needs to be maintained every 3 or 4 months probably, just another polish. But obviously, again, the next option is you either go and spend the time, fully sanding and fully refinishing the headlights, which I was prepared to do, but I'm happy with how they look anyway now. Or you go and buy new lenses, full new lenses, and you replace the lenses on the car. You take the headlights out and you put brand new lenses in. So I'm not obviously interested in doing that because that's a lot of work. So we're just going to skip that. So I'll flip the car around, bring it back in again, and we'll work on tidying up the exhaust tips. So team, morning after, Sunday morning. Just been playing with cleaning up the tips. So I've just basically been using a bit of my high strength cleaner that I use on the interior on stains and things, just to get it clean. And then I've been using initially a little bit of 000 steel wool with a bit of polish. So it works pretty well. You've just got to be mindful of there's just a few bits on here that we're probably not going to be able to get off, like this here, this little build-up. I feel like it's possibly
eaten into the actual exhaust itself. I might be wrong though. I just don't want to scratch the sort of surface because it is quite a nice sort of surface inside there. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to finish giving a little bit more of a clean, and then I'm going to get the rotary tool and we're going to chuck a little wheel on it, and we're going to clean the inside of that exhaust with a proper wheel, sort of like this here, like something out of this kit here, but a little more girthy, if that's the right word for it. Something a little bit more like this. Yeah, we might put this on the end of the drill and use this, but I think I've got an older one somewhere, so I don't wreck a brand new one, because you do sort of destroy them pretty quickly when you use those. So I just need to find my spare one. But yeah, we'll use some power tools and we'll finish this one off, and then we'll move on to the next one. Right team, that looks already a lot better. So our tips are nice and clean and sparkling. Now just be careful with the tips on the 335, because they are obviously finished in a sort of like matte satiny sort of metal finish. So you'll see here on the inside of both exhausts, I've given them a good polish with the rotary tool here, but obviously in doing so you're polishing the metal. So the metal starts to turn back into a sort of a chrome finish, which is obviously not what we want for the exterior of the tips. So they look good, but obviously don't do the same to the outside of the tip. This light still makes it look pretty, like it's, but obviously, you know, it's still a 15 or 14-year-old car, but in normal light they look real nice. But yeah, so you can see inside there, you just want to keep any rotary tools off the exterior of the exhaust. So they look nice and shiny now. This one's just got a little bit of build up at the bottom here, which I think is like a carbon build up or something. So I might just try rubbing a little bit of I'm not sure, I want to say like a throttle body cleaner possibly. So I might just rub a little bit of that on there and see if I can get it to loosen up that carbon and get rid of it. But yeah, otherwise we've done that. So now what we're going to do is move the car outside, because spoiler alert, I've got to finish off the E55 210. So and it's always raining here where we are, always raining, every day's raining, so it's just gonna have to sit in the rain. But yeah, initially obviously we've already done the headlights, they look great. They look brilliant. The exhausts are done, so now we can move on to putting the car outside for a little bit, and yeah, maybe we'll do a little bit of the engine bay as well later before we wrap this video up. Right team, under the hood of the 335, so we've got the engine here, and I just wanted to check the power steering fluid on the active steering system. Oh, okay. So it runs on CH11S, which is very similar fluid to the just chucked it over the top. Very similar fluid to the S600, which is the V12 twin turbo, and that runs the ABC system. So the fluid's normally green, This stuff is actually not too bad, to be honest. You just gotta be careful, you don't want any gunk getting in the system, team. Yeah, it's actually very clean. Very clean. We'll probably end up giving it a flush anyway. Yeah, I'd probably still give it a bit of a flush, but all in all, it looks pretty good to me. So I think what we'll do, team, is next weekend, so part 2 of this video, next weekend, we're going to finally have the parts to do the valve cover gasket. So we're going to replace that because that's currently leaking. We'll give the power steering just a little quick flush. We won't give it a very thorough one because the steering is overall quite good, and you know, 600 uses the same fluid for the ABC suspension system and its own power steering, so I'm pretty familiar with what's good and what looks bad, and that's not too bad, so that's good. The level's right as well. Now, when I used to have my 335i, one of the key issues I had once was this hose here. It connects to a plastic expansion hose that comes through here and then joins on here. Now that hose snapped once and I had steam coming out, or coolant basically spraying slowly out while I was driving in the city, which was very frustrating. So I've quoted to get a new one of those hoses, but when we've got the intake out next weekend and the area opened up, we'll just give it a good inspection to see what actually needs to be done, because frankly I think I've got a pretty good eye now to tell if something's going to break. But yeah, so you'll see that hose running in there, team. That's the one that snapped. So you've just got to be mindful of that. Now that could have snapped because someone moved something and, you know, was a bit rough with it and that cracked it. So overall this motor's been looked after pretty well from what I can see. Even like the little tabs here, they're not broken. It's so common on these BMWs with these cheap plastic parts, everything just breaks. But surprisingly this car is actually pretty good so far, so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, as you can see, we've got some decent oil build-up down there on the turbo side of the engine. Now, back down there you can see it further down on that little metal heat shield, and it's into where the sort of steering gearbox is, down that area. So get down and dirty in replacing the oil valve cover, because that's all that's leaking as far as I'm aware. Doesn't look like anything's leaking underneath, so that's good. So yeah, just on the top end here we're going to have a good look at it and fix that one known oil leak up, and we'll just inspect the drive belts and pulleys as well, just make sure they're okay. But yeah, I'm excited to get this intake pulled off and put a new intake on, because this car sounds really nice. It has a real nice induction sound with the right intake. Overall, team, I'm pretty bloody happy. Is it a car I'll have long term? Probably not. Probably not. It's just going to be a good project that we can work on and share on the channel, and see how we go. But overall, very nice car, very well looked after by the previous owner, so it's really good to see that we've bought a nice example, because, you know, I think I've paid, I don't know if I mentioned, but this car here cost me basically 11,500 New Zealand dollars, which is probably equivalent to about 7,000 US dollars. So pretty cheap for our market, maybe not so cheap in the US, but again, very clean car. Whereas the E55 here, you know, 11 years older than this, double the mileage, if not more than double the mileage, in rough condition. If you watch the videos on this car, team, it was extremely rough, and we've done a lot to tidy stuff up on it over the last few years. But you know, comparatively, that's a fantastic car for the money. What a brilliant car for the money. You're just gonna have to repair it a bit more and look after it a bit more. E55, very solid, reliable engine. Not gonna have too many issues with that. So I think this is a cool car for the money, like far out. If I had no other cars and I was just starting out, this would be a dream car for me to get started out in, because it's got everything. It's comfortable, it looks good, looks modern, powerful. Just need a big wallet to keep it running. But anyway, team, hope you enjoyed the video. Stay subscribed for part 2 coming up, hopefully in the next week or so. Just seeing how I go. I'm just wrapping up the E55 project now. Go watch that video, and yeah, we'll see you again soon. And thanks for the 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully it stays above 1,000 and keeps climbing from here. But yeah, let me know if you want to see anything with the 335, have any questions. I'm pretty familiar with them. Just getting reaccustomed with this one. Cheers.